Good morning, everybody. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that on March 19, the Syrian government informed the United Nations of the launch of a gas-laden projectile by anti-government forces near Khan al-Assal in Aleppo Governorate. The Syrian government requested the UN Secretary General that an impartial and independent UN investigation into this incident be carried out. Unfortunately, the Secretary General's initial intention to conduct a swift investigation did not materialize. Under such circumstances, the Syrian government requested Russian experts to clarify the Khan al-Assal case. I have just transmitted to the Secretary General the results of the analysis of on-site samples taken by Russian experts in Khan al-Assal. I would like to underscore that, unlike other reports provided to the Secretary General, our samples were taken at the projectile impact point by Russian experts in person. They were not transmitted to us through third parties. The samples were analyzed at a Russian laboratory certified by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. It was established that on March 19, the rebels launched an unguided Bashar-3 projectile towards Khan al-Assal controlled by the government forces. As you know, 26 people were killed, 16 of them military personnel, 86 injured and intoxicated to different levels. The results of the analysis clearly indicate that the ordnance used in Khan al-Assal was not industrially manufactured and was filled with sarin. The sarin technical specifications prove that it was not industrially manufactured either. The absence of chemical stabilizers in the samples of the detected toxic agents indicate the relatively recent production. The projectile involved is not a standard one for chemical use. Hexogen, utilized as an opening charge, is not used in standard ammunitions. Therefore, there is every reason to believe that it was the armed opposition fighters who used the chemical weapons in Khan al-Assal. According to the information at our disposal, the production of Bashar-3 unguided projectiles was started in February 2013 by the so-called Bashar al-Nasr Brigade, affiliated with the Free Syrian Army. In conclusion, I would like to stress that we welcome the decision by the Syrian government to invite the High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, Ms. Kane, and the head of the United Nations investigation team, Professor Söllström, to visit Syria. We believe that this initiative creates a new positive momentum in order to launch an investigation into the use of chemical weapons in Syria. All modalities of such investigation should be defined in direct discussions between the Syrian government and the United Nations Secretariat. Thank you. Yeah.
Do you think it will come to any conclusion at all?
Well, you know, first of all, we do hope that the United Nations will be able to investigate, first of all, this case, and the modalities, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, are to be discussed by the Syrian government, and I hope that they will be able to agree with the Syrian government on that in the course of that upcoming visit of Ms. Kane and Mr. Söllström. Let me also clarify one final thing. What I gave today to the Secretary General is not just a description of the results, but the actual document. It's 80 pages of photographs, formulas, and graphs, which substantiate what I have just briefly told you, and we invite the United Nations experts to study those results, and if there are additional questions will be prepared to clarify them. I don't have that information. Matthew, I'm sorry.
Does this evidence in any way jive what was collected by the Russian state TV journalist Anastasia Popova, who was given over to Angela Kane, who was a little other went forward?
You know, I don't want to make any comparisons because the official investigation was done the way it was described by our experts who collected the evidence and had the proper analysis of the evidence in the Russian laboratory certified by Chemical Weapons Prohibition Organization, please.
Could you clarify for us whether Russia
Well, we support thorough investigation of all credible allegations. The thing is that, of course, all sorts of allegations may come up. For example, our European colleagues tell us that they provided 10 different cases to the Secretary General, and out of them, 2 were picked up. Were they picked up because they contain some credibility, or were they picked up because it would have been sort of embarrassing to throw out all 10 of those cases? As you know, our French, English, and American colleagues, as you probably know, shared this information about the results of their analysis of the samples they had with our experts, and our experts were not impressed at all. I was not a part of this analysis and analyzing those UK, French, and US samples, but I think the other day in the Swiss newspaper there was an article which says that the level of toxins in French samples was 1,000 times lower than that detected in the victims of sarin use in a Tokyo subway in 1995, and could well be generated by insecticides. So the thing is that this is something which needs to be discussed between the Syrian government and the Secretariat. We all, of course, are going to follow things very carefully, and we believe that there is no room for using chemical weapons in Syria or anywhere else, and in fact, if there was a use, it should be investigated. That's why we're very upset that the March 19 incident was not investigated as was originally intended by the Secretary General.
Mr. Ambassador, did you share, did Russia share with the United States or any of the European countries that you referred to the report, or anyone else the report?
Yes, in fact, as a gesture of reciprocity, because, as I mentioned, they did give the results of their analysis to us. I'm going maybe today to send the same information to our UK, US, French colleagues as well.
Do you think the results from Canada, do you think the results from Canada, is Russia going to push for an action?
This, as I say, now we have something which looks like a promising process. Unfortunately, the process was derailed when the Syrian government invited this investigation of Hana al-Assal in the first place, because what they were confronted with, this is my understanding of the predicament, was essentially the replica of Iraq investigation, and they didn't want to repeat the same experience. The situation was completely different. So now I hope that on both sides there is going to be reasonable kind of an attitude and an effort to clarify this matter. Hana al-Assal, I think, should be a high priority for investigation, because the circumstances are so clear as far as we are concerned, and we spent some time in order to draw this very detailed analysis of the samples.
Mr. Ambassador, according to your analysis,
did you try to see if the experts are invited to be welcome in any of the other facilities or places where the Secretary General thought that the team should go? Did you try to do that, and did you have any hindered access anywhere?
No, it was not our intention. It was not our intention to replace any kind of UN investigation or anything else. We had a specific request by the Syrian government to do what they requested the United Nations to do on that particular case, and we did that, and now we're sharing the results with them.
Mr. Ambassador,
Madam President, please.
Thank you. Do you have reason to believe that, Ambassador, that the Syrian government will give unfettered access to Anglican and Dr. Sullivan?
I believe that there is reason to hope that they will arrive at an appropriate solution for the modalities of that investigation. But I think that it's certain that you would not be looking to a replica of Iraq model of like indefinite in time and scope investigation. This is not warranted, we believe, by the circumstances.
Your analysis, you said that it was used by the rebels. Where would they get it from? Secondly, it sounds like you're saying that it's not industrial level, so can we infer from that that the Syrian government does at least possess
You know, the Syrian government, of course, has a formula when referring to this chemical weapons if we have them. I don't want to go beyond that formula used by the chemical government, but by the Syrian government. But they were not produced at a proper industrial level. The quality of production is not of a proper industrial level. They were like cottage industry product. Both the projectile itself and the chemical which was used were manufactured at a simpler facility that than an industrial production would indicate.
So where would they get them?
What kind of response
Where would they
do you
get them,
expect
sir?
from your European and U.S. colleagues?
I'm sorry?
What kind of response do you expect from your European and
Well, I hope they analyze, they look at this information. I hope they find it persuasive. If they have any questions, our experts will be prepared to answer those questions. You? Well, you know, the where exactly we don't know. But I'll refer you, for instance, to a statement which was made several weeks ago by, if I'm not mistaken, Iraqi Ministry of Information, which said that they detected or found 3 laboratories in Iraq which were involved in producing sarin. So, you know, such things, unfortunately, can be produced in makeshift conditions at a level of production which is less refined than industrial level, but which still would be lethal. And this is what we saw in this particular case.
Ambassador, separate from the NSC, have the experts spoken with Mr. Selstrom and his team, like expert to expert?
Not yet. But I expect that the Secretary General will deliver this information to Mr. Selstrom. If he has any questions, of course, our experts will be prepared to answer those questions.
Are you going to try to actively trace where these came from, or are you done now?
I'm not prepared to answer this. Thank you very much. Thank you.